Welcome you all. This video, the topic is Spring Boot Captcha with MVC. We have to understand the advantages of Spring Boot over the Spring. First point, Spring Boot can have Spring in it. The vice versa is not possible. Second point, Spring Boot can configure the classes for you. For example, few of them we are going to see in this program itself. Third point, Spring Boot having internal database and server. It doesn't require you to install any external servers. If you require, you can go with the external database. Here we are going to go with external MySQL database. Spring Boot can also provide the RESTful web service better than the Spring. So let me get into the topic now. So today we are going to create the Captcha based login, that means registration form, and during registration the Captcha will be checked. If it is matching, then it will be registered in the database. If not, it will show invalid Captcha. For this purpose, first we are going to create the Spring project, then we will go with the MVC architecture as well. We will have the controller, the model, and the view as a JSP pages. In this regard, we have to create certain number of files. In SRC main Java, we have to create the 6 files which is shown on the screen. The last one, Spring Boot main application, will be created automatically while you are creating the Spring Boot application. Then the Captcha util is the core part where it will generate the Captcha and it will convert the Captcha into binary image as well. So there will be two functions, one to create the Captcha, second to convert that into binary image. Why you want to convert that to binary image? That means binary format of image. You have to store it in a variable. If you want to store the image in a variable, you have to convert into a binary format string, then you have to store it. Whenever you want, you can reconvert that. So two functions will be there. Then user is the Pojo class or entity class, we can say, that is related to the database. Then you are having a repository user repository which will extend the JPA repository for the database API calls. That means you don't want to write any query like save, update kind of. You don't want to write any query like insert into select star from like that. Instead of that, you can directly write save, update, delete, etc. Right? So that API will be supported by the JPA repository, which will be written in user repository. And then one DAO service. That DAO service will have actual API calls. API support is from user repository. API call is on DAO service. And those calls will be enclosed within the function, and those functions will be called from the controller. The controller will be acting as a middleware where the request can be received and sent to an appropriate API and get back the result and provide it back to the JSP pages. The controller is to receive and send the things. So these 6 files we have to create. Then in SRC main resources, we are having all the settings in the name of application.template, the database related thing, the JSP file related thing. And in fact, it should be the next one. It should be not HTML. It should be JSP pages. Two JSP pages we have to create inside webinf JSP. Two folders also we have to create, webinf and JSP folder. Inside that we will create register.jsp for registering the user, and to list out the user who are registered, we will create list user.jsp. Okay, these two JSP pages, the path to reach these two JSP pages will be provided in application.template as well. Then few dependencies we are having. We have to go with all those dependencies to fulfill the project. First, after creating the Spring Boot project, you have to change the version to 2.5.4. Few projects will work in fewer versions because we are going with multiple dependencies which may support to fewer versions. And so we are going with Spring version 2.5.4 and Java version 1.8. And then the first dependency, starter web, and the second one, dev tool, both are related to the web application of Spring Boot application. Then these dependencies, starter Tomcat, this will makes the internal server, and the next one is the starter test. By default, it will come for testing the application. Then the Lombok, this particular dependency is to auto generate the getters and setters, and few more data related works like constructor auto generation can be done. Whatever you do with the Pojo classes can be done with this Lombok dependency. And then the data JPA, this particular term I had already spoken, JPA repository, which will have the API for your calls like save, update, delete with related to database operations. Then the next one, you want to connect to your MySQL. So MySQL connector Java. Then whenever you are doing some project in Spring Boot related to web application, you might get one exception called JAXB exception. To overcome that one, we are going for this JAXB API. Tomcat embeds Jasper. This is also to JSP dependency. These two dependencies are related to JSP pages. You are creating two JSP pages that need to be rendered from the Spring Boot app. You need to have these two dependencies for that. And finally, the Captcha dependency. This particular dependency is to generate the Captcha. And then the application.template file. This one here we will just say the port number where we will run, and the SQL related one, whatever the operation we are doing for that to update or create DDL auto we have to say, and show SQL true. If you say false, that won't show the internal operations of SQL, whatever it is creating and deleting in the console. Without giving system.out.println, every time whatever the operation it is doing with the SQL, it will show that in the console. You don't want to write system.out.println, show this operation like this. Instead of that, you can simply write show SQL true, jpa.show SQL true. So whatever the operation it is happening, it will show. Then the URL, username, password, and driver class is to connect to the database. And the two functions which I set already, the Captcha based function. The first function is to create the Captcha. This function will get the width and height of the Captcha image width and height. And actually this function will return the Captcha after building to the corresponding width and height. It will add the background like a gradient one. It will add the text over that. And it will add the noise also. That means background, actual text, and noise. Then finally it will build. The builded Captcha will be returned whomever calling this function create Captcha. So this is the basic Captcha generation, but this need to be stored in a class variable. That means you have to convert this into binary format. For that purpose, the other function, encode Captcha, is there. In this function, actually, you are converting the things into binary image, like binary string. And finally, you are returning the string value, which is converted. Here you are converting base 64, you are using to convert the image which you already got. This Captcha is the input, which is just created now, and then that Captcha.get image will give you the image in the JPEG format, and then that will be converted to binary format. Then that is converted into string. Then that string is being returned as the answer. So this string will be stored in the class variable. Now we get into the program. So we will create one new Spring Boot project. Spring Starter project you have to do. File, new Spring Starter project. Let me have the file name as JFSD Captcha 1. The remaining things are same. It is a var based packaging. That means web application. The jar based packaging means it's a Java application. It will run in a console. Okay. Var based means it will run in a browser. Then we will go to the next. Here you can select the dependencies which you require. As I already said, we want the Lambo dev tool, data JPA. This theme leaf is actually to create the HTML files under template folder, and then you can pass and receive the data from HTML file to Java. It is like that. But we are going to do in the way of JSP now. So we don't want this dependency. Spring Web is to make the application as web application. This H2 database is the internal database. Instead of MySQL, if you want, you can go with this H2 database. I am going to go with MySQL now. If you require few more dependency, you can search here, okay, and then you can select those. Few dependencies I had selected. With the whichever not there, I will be just copy pasting the dependencies. You can also search from Maven repository as well. Then just give finish. It will create the project for you. So now the project is created. In JFSD Captcha 1, you can able to see SRC main Java, which is having the package initially. This is having the main file. I said now that main file is created automatically by the Spring Boot application. Then SRC main resources, here application.templates is there. All the settings we have to give it here. Initially it will be empty. Then down under SRC main web app is there. In this web app, we have to create two folders. Like first folder is web-inf. Then second one is JSP, for just saying JSP pages. Then inside this JSP, we will have two files. One, just register.jsp. Two, it is list user.jsp. So two files are created. Later we will add the code in this. And then we have to just go down to pom.xml. In this pom.xml, you see the Spring version which is created is 3.0.6. Actually, we want different version. You will just come from the beginning. We want the version 2.5.4. Just change it to 2.5.4. and Java version change it to 1.8. Then check the dependencies, data JPA, starter web, dev tool, Lambok. So starter web is there, dev tool is there, starter Tomcat, I think so that will also be there. Starter Tomcat is there. Starter test is the default one which will come. Lambok came. Data JPA came. Then this MySQL based one will not be available. You have to just make it. Copy this MySQL based one. And then this JAXB exception. For avoiding JAXB exception, the dependency. Just paste it at the last inside the dependency stack. This JSP based dependency will also be not there. Just you have to copy these two dependencies and paste it. And then finally the dependency for Captcha generation. Paste it. So all those dependencies I had pasted inside the dependencies tag, and all these dependencies you can also find in Maven repository as I shown in the previous videos and all. Now just to make effect in these changes, just save it. After saving, you had actually touched the dependencies in pom.xml, so you have to update the project as well. See, it is showing the into mark here on the top. Why now? You had saved, but you had changed the version of Spring also 2.5.4, which is not updated. So you just right click it, go to Maven, and right click the project, go to Maven, and just give update project. Tick the force update, just click OK. So now you can able to see the error in the project folder is gone. It is set to 2.5.4 version, and whatever the dependencies we had added, all is ready and it is set. This easier will become the Java project when you do with Spring Boot with related to dependencies. You don't want to search for the jar files, put it in one folder, make it in libraries. No, just put these codes in the Maven. It will take care. And also few more Spring Boot advantages we will be speaking about when we are doing the project. Now I will just close this form.xml. We will finish our JSP page as well since we created the files. Go to register.jsp first. Every JSP page will start with the JSP tag, that is open angle bracket percentage and @ symbol. All together is the starting tag, and the ending tag is something like percentage symbol and closing angle bracket. So it should be joined. In between you have to write. So the first one is related to page, this page related data. And I'm going to say the language attribute. Language is Java. Next, content type. Content type is text/HTML actually, and then put semicolon and continue with char set. That means character set. One space is enough. This char set should be UTF-8, and then finally say page encoding. That also UTF-8. So now the first line of the default line of JSP page is done. The second line we have to go with. The second one also we have to start with the same tag. And here instead of page, it is tag lib. Like we can use some other third-party tags by mentioning their URIs, and we can use the tags with the prefix, whatever we mentioned here. So two attributes will be there, URI, who will provide a support for the tag, and then the prefix. I am going to use the form as the prefix. That means for the form related attribute, I will search for the support and I will use the tag libs. So those tag libs can be found in http www.springframework.org. Be careful with the spellings. springframework.org/tags/form. So this is the URI. It is only HTTP, not HTTPS. Okay. So this is the URI which will provide you the support for the form tag, and I'm going to use it with a prefix called form. Wherever I said form colon, that says the support is from this tag lib. And the next one is about which is tag lib, actually not tag lib URI. This one actually for my core part, that means any looping I'm doing, I will be using this core prefix for the JSP. So this I will say the prefix as core, and I need the support for the core part of the JSP. I will get the support from http java.sun.com/JSP JSTL/core. So I had two prefixes, one is form, another one is core. Depends on the need, I will use it. Now I have to start with the body section. Assuming I had already HTML head everything, so I'm going to start with the body section. I want one form which is from form prefix. Normally the form will have action and the method attribute. Method we will say post, like I'm going to post the user data for saving it in the database. It is a registration page, right? Whenever I click register button, I will post the data. So where it need to go is /save is the location it need to go. Like I will have controller later. That controller will listen for a particular URL. Whenever the URL occurs like /save, a particular block of function will get triggered. In that way, I want to do. That means I want to say what to listen and where to post. First, I'm saying where to post /save. This is the location URL. For that, the data will be posted. Similarly, have the closing form tag. While closing also, don't forget to have form, because you open like that. Then inside the form tag, we will have the name for the registration, form input with the text box, and you can say path equal to, this is the field name of the class. For I will have one entity class like user. That user class will have name, email as the field, and Captcha also in the field. I need to have those things here. First text box corresponds to the name field, and then email is the label, and second text box corresponds to the email field. After the name and email, we need to go with the Captcha. When we are going with that Captcha, we are having three fields actually. Hidden Captcha, Captcha, real Captcha. Three fields. Remember, the hidden Captcha is for our internal purpose. That means later we will check LHS equal to RHS. That LHS will be hidden Captcha. That RHS will be the actual Captcha entered by the user. So two fields came here. Whatever I had said, the hidden Captcha and Captcha. Hidden Captcha is one side and Captcha is on other side. Why I am saying hidden Captcha means here we won't show that to user, but we will have the field as hidden. And the third Captcha is real Captcha. That real Captcha is the actual image of the Captcha which is generated. That need to be displayed to the user now for that purpose. Now we will go with the hidden Captcha field. No need to mention the label because it is hidden. You have to say form hidden. Instead of form input, you have to say form hidden. Then path should be the field name called hidden Captcha. These are self-closing tags. So close all the tags which we created, the name, email, and hidden form. Then next, hidden Captcha is done. Then the next one is Captcha field. Before the Captcha field, we need to show the real Captcha data. First you have to show the image, then only you have to ask the user to type the Captcha. For that purpose, just I am saying the label as Captcha. Then one image I need to display. So image tag SRC, that means source of the image. You need to get the source of the image. But before that, you have to write data colon real. This data is corresponds to the data which you are retrieving, and real is just a name. Any name you can give, no issue. JPEG is a format and base64 is the one how you converted to the binary format. You have to give here the binary format value which is stored in that Pojo class or entity class. So base64 comma, here you have to specify. How to give means dollar. Whatever we are passing from there, that will passed in the name of command. Command is the object. For example, entity class object dot the field name. Field name is real Captcha. Real Captcha. This is the way to say your SRC. It's also a self-closing tag. I am closing it. Then you have to give the field to type the Captcha. This is form input field. Path equal to the actual Captcha we are getting from the user. Okay. The Captcha is the field in the entity class. Three Captcha I said, hidden Captcha, real Captcha, and Captcha. So these three are done. Then finally the submit button. Here you don't want to say form colon and all. Just say input, type, submit. Value will be displaying over the button. Just say register. Register user is the button label. Self-closing one, so I am closing. My fields are ready. Name, email, and one hidden Captcha and a Captcha image to display. Type Captcha is to receive the data. Then the submit button to send the data. 5 fields are there. It will be sent in the post method to the /save URL. That means your base URL slash save. Now the form is actually ready. We will design the form for list user also. The first three tags we will just copy. Now I want to list the user. Here I will use the core part to loop the list. For example, assuming that I am getting the data from the Java to the JSP file. What data I am getting? I am getting the list of users. 10 users are there. All the user data, 10 user data is coming here. I have to loop the 10 user data and I have to display in a table format. So first I have to create a table here. Inside the table row for heading, th tag for heading. The first column is name. Second column is email. And only two columns we are going to display. Captcha and all we are not going to display here. Only name and email of registered users. Then I have to display all the user data in the next row. Before creating row, I have to loop. Every iteration of loop, I have to create one row. First, I have to create the loop. For creating the loop, I am going with 4 colon. That means the prefix colon. For each is there. This for each is having variable, whatever you want to say, like obj is the object or user is the variable. User is the object and items. This items is nothing but the one which you are passing from there and you are receiving it here, the list. So I will say command. In the name of command I am passing. So command is a list and user is the iterative variable. Similarly, you have to close it 4 colon for each. Don't forget to put the closing tag also. Inside the loop, you have to create the table row. That means for every iteration, it will create one row. Closing table row, be careful on that. And inside the table row, we know we are having 2 columns. So the first column is the name. How will you get it? You have to use dollar symbol and then 2 brackets. Inside that you have to say user dot, that means object. First row's object is user. Dot, what column you require? The field name you have to say. Name. Similarly, second, dollar, open and closing bracket. Then inside user dot email. It will print iteratively and it will be done. To fulfill this JSP page, we need to complete the other side also, like the Java side. So we will go to src main Java. In that, the package is already created. Inside the demo package, we will create our entity class name user. This is the entity class which I created. Since I'm saying entity, I have to use this entity annotation. Then only this class will become entity class. Otherwise, it will be simply a Pojo class. If you want to mention the table name, just mention the table name. Otherwise, it will create the name in the name of the class. The first letter will be small in the table name. I can rename that the user defined one, like user2 is the table name I want to create. And whenever you are doing like this, you have to import this. Just move your cursor over the annotation, just after the annotation, and give control space. control space, then it will suggest you from where you have to import it. Import it from the persistence package. All these are dependencies we already made. This user entity class is having the field like string name, then second field string email, then three more fields as I said, string, three captcha fields, hidden captcha, then string. There is a reason actually to separate and write. I would say string captcha, then string real captcha. Actually, what I want to store in database means in these 5 fields, I want to store only the first 2 fields. Rest of the 3 fields is only for my operation, and I don't want to store these fields into the database. How to restrict the particular fields only for operation and not to go into database? When you say at entity annotation, all the fields will go into database. You have to cut down the few fields. You have to say another annotation called transient. Just give control space. It will suggest you import transient and use it. If you say transient, these fields will not get into the database. Now name and email will only get into database, and I want this name as the primary key. That means I have to say the annotation ID, I should be capital. Name becomes the primary key. Now you can understand why I had separated the fields to give the annotation only. Now this entity class has been ready, but the fields are ready. You have to generate the getter and setter methods for all these fields. Just right click it, source, generate getters and setters, select all, generate. It will generate all the getters and setters for you. Your entity class is ready now. Now next, we already discussed 6 classes. Actually, this 2 JFSD Captcha 1 application and servlet initializer, you have to take it as 1. That's the main class which is generated by the Spring Boot application itself. So only 2 classes done still now. Still 4 more classes are there. Now we will go with one interface for doing this database operation. That means database table is reflecting in the form of entity. We are having the table ready now, but we have to do some API calls over the table now. Insert, delete, like that. Database table is ready. You have to do the API call. So how to do the API call? You have to extend the JPA repository. Where you will extend the JPA repository? Actually, why you have to extend the JPA repository? Because that JPA repository is having the API for you, which you are going to use, like save, update, delete. So you have to extend the JPA repository. Where you have to extend the JPA repository? In one interface. So we have to create that. Right click the package, new, go to interface, and just say user repository. User repository. Create the interface. Here you say extends J capital and PA small. Then you give control space, it will suggest you. Extends JPA repository. Actually, you have to give 2 fields here. The first one is the class name. Class name is user. The second one is the primary key data type, primary key data type of the class. What is the primary key? Name. What is the data type of the primary key? String. You have to give string here. Then some predefined APIs are there. As I said, save and delete. You can use it. Find all is there. You can use it. Find by ID is also there. But if you want to find by something else, or if you want to do some other operations, then you have to mention the function name here without definition, because it is interface. Without definition, according to the parameter which is coming in and the return type which is going out, it will decide the function body automatically. This is the advantage of Spring, right? Now, actually, I want only to use the predefined functions now, because if I go in detail, the video will be in lengthier format. Just I will go with the predefined functions. This JPA repository extended is sufficient. Next, I'm having the repository now. Repository means the API, but I have to use the API now. Table is created, API is there. I have to use the API to fill the table. So how to use the API? You have to create one service for that. That service I'm going to create now. New class. We can say DAO, database operation. Okay, DAO service. DAO service is the class. And you have to annotate this with service annotation. I will say why it is required. If you are not doing that, how will you create the object for DAO service normally? Like anywhere, if you want, you will just be creating like DAO service space something like DAO equal to new DAO service. This is the way to create the object now. But when you create like this in any of the classes, you cannot use the JPA repository perfectly. Not perfectly, like you cannot use. I will say you cannot use. If you want to use the JPA repository APIs, you should not create the objects like this. It should be auto wired. Okay, the object should be auto wired wherever you want. When you auto wire it, it need to be service annotated. Otherwise, it won't auto wire and it will link to JPA repository. Okay. That is the reason I'm giving service annotation. If you remove that, it won't work. Now, inside the DAO service, let me to have 2-3 functions like public. First function is save function to save the value. What is required to save the value? The user class is there now. That user class I set as table, database table. That is the entity class. In database table, every row, okay, every row is one object. Object of which class? User class only. So, if you want to store one row, you have to get the object of user as the input. Then you have to use it to store it. How to store? You have to create object for which one you have to create the object. Already we extended JPA repository now. To which one we extended? To user repository we extended. Now if you want to create the object, to which one you will create? For user repository we will create. And with the help of user repository object only, we will call the JPA repository APIs. We will create now user repository space repo is the object. And once again, you should not write equal to new and other things, because it is auto wired and it is from the package. You just have to write auto wire. It will take care of the right side part. Now you have to use that repo object to save See, save is the API. It is automatically coming. If you put repo dot, you can able to see all these APIs which you can use predefined one. I will use save. Save API requires the object. That means one row. The object is user which you receive. That's it. Only one line. Done. This simple it is to save. Then the next function is to find all the values. That means you need to display for that purpose. But here the return type should be list of user. List is from util package and user is the data type of a class. Why I am saying user type? Every row is one object. 10 rows maybe, so 10 objects. So it is list of objects. Which object? User object. Then you just say show some function name. No input required. Return type is required. So return repo dot find all is there. You can use that find all function. This will create a list for you and that list will be returned. Don't forget to import the list from util package. So it is imported. Now the table is ready. The JPA repository API ready. And you are ready to use the API also with the two functions called save and show. The functions are ready to use the API. Next one, we have to create the object for this DAO service to use this save and show function. Where you will use means in the controller. Okay, in the controller. We will use the controller now. But before going to controller, I want to go to controller finally. So I will create one more class called Captcha util. That will have two functions as we already discussed. Just we will create the class. We are having the code ready. Create it. Captcha util is the class name. Inside the class, just have the two functions which you are having. The first function is to create the captcha. And the second function is to convert the captcha to binary format. See, lot of errors are there. Just you have to import the files. Just click on the end of the error. Control space you give. It will recommend. Just you import those. Then it will automatically go. Every time you have to give control space. So it will recommend the package to import. Then you can import it. See, now there is no error. This class is ready. Okay. Now finally we will go to the class called controller. We will create Captcha controller. This is controller class now, so you have to annotate with controller. Otherwise, it won't differentiate the other class with this. If you say controller, that class will start to listen the URL of your browser. Whenever some URL occurs, accordingly it will trigger the function. Normally, see, suppose you are creating one add function. When it will work? When you call add like that. Like that, here you will have multiple functions. When it will work? When the function is called. Who will call? User will call. How they will call? Through the browser URL. Whenever the URL changes, the function will be called. So it have to listen to the URL. Na? For that purpose, we have to say annotation called request mapping. And inside the annotation, request mapping, just give slash. That means it is a home page. The base address. That means localhost colon 8080. That's it. With that, what function to trigger? We will write one function. This will trigger. The function return type is string. I will say y string. Then you will understand. Then function is just to create like fun one, no issue. And whenever this base is triggered, that means home page you want to display. What is the home page? The registration page only we are having as home page, because we are having only two pages. One is registration, another one is list all users. So the registration page you have to display it as a home page. How you will display that registration page? Just you have to say return. What is the name of the file? Home page file register.jsp, right? But I am not saying .jsp here. In fact, I have to say like this: how web inf slash jsp slash register.jsp, like this I have to say. But I'm going to cut down this suffix and then this prefix. Then how it will identify? By default, it will look for the web app folder only. But I created two internal folders and then I put the files inside. So the prefix and suffix is not there. That I will say common to all the files in the settings. That means application.properties. The prefix for spring.mvc.view.prefix and spring.mvc.view.suffix I will say there. You will say now itself, no issue. Just say server.port. Which port number you want to run? 8080. Then second, I will give one more line break to identify spring dot mvc dot view dot prefix equal to what prefix you want? Web. You start with a slash web inf slash small jsp. This case sensitive, okay? JSP. This is the prefix you want, and put the slash at the last. And also now spring dot mvc dot view dot suffix. What is the suffix you require? Dot JSP. This is in common to all. Done. Now we will go to our controller. The prefix and suffix will be from the application settings. That is no issue. And you can think Sar is saying something like string and he is returning the string. How it will become a JSP page? By default, it will become a JSP page. If you want to make it as only string, not the JSP page, then you have to put the annotation called response body. If you put this annotation, then it will become only string and not the JSP page. It will display register register for you. If it want to display the JSP page, just don't put this response body annotation. It will automatically display you the JSP page. And now, any data you have to pass to that page, think what we already created in the register page. We are going with the name, email, and 3 types of Captcha. So from where it is coming, you have to pass it now. That you have to pass it while you are calling it. So how you will pass it? You have to create one model object M. Okay, model should be imported. Then you have to write M dot add attribute. What is the attribute name? Is command is the name which I am giving, comma. What is the actual attribute? New user. That is the object of the entity class, is the actual attribute. But if you pass like this, all the 5 fields will be empty. Correct? Initially, you are creating the object. Nothing is provided. So name, email, and 3 captchas will be empty. Name and email is empty. Fine. How can be the captcha be empty? Because you have to display the captcha, na? So don't pass like this. Here you have to pass the object, remember. But before that, you have to create the object. So I'm creating the object user space user small u is the object user new user. So I created one object called user. For this user object, I have to set the captcha values. How will you set user dot set hidden captcha? You have to say user dot set hidden captcha. What to set as hidden captcha? That you want to know now. So how will you create that one? That means you have to create the captcha. Then only you can able to set that. Hidden captcha is nothing but actual text inside the captcha. Actual text inside the captcha. So first you have to create the captcha. Then only you can get the text inside the captcha. How will you create the captcha? Create object for captcha. Right side you should not write new captcha and all. It is something like the class name which we created. And remember, both the methods we created in the class was static method. You see, in the captcha util, see, class is not inside the class. You are having the first method as static and the second method also static. That means you don't want any object for this class to access this static method. So you can access this with the class name. So just put class name here. Captcha util dot. You can able to see here two methods. Create captcha. You have to give the width and height. Just I'm giving something like 270 and height something like 80 or 65. Let me have. So height and width is provided for captcha creation. It will be created now. Now the created captcha can be used here. Captcha dot. You have to say get answer because captcha is in different format. Okay, JPEG format. But you have to save it in a string format. So just say get answer. The actual text of the captcha will be saved. See, two different things. First, in the hidden captcha, I am storing the actual text. In real captcha, I am storing the actual image. Both are different. Image will have background, noise, and then text, etc. But here in the hidden captcha, only text is there. Right? Now, hidden captcha is set. What about the captcha set captcha? Captcha is something like the user need to fill na. So just leave it with double quotes. Set it to empty. Actually, the user will fill this captcha. Then what about your real captcha? We will have user dot set real captcha. Here you have to pass the real captcha as a string. How to pass it? You know. What is the class name? Captcha util dot. The method you have to use is encode captcha and you have to pass the captcha inside to generate the binary value of that image. Then that will be saved in real captcha. For identification of these things, I will just use system.out.println to print this captcha. Then only I can able to see if there is any error and I can able to correct. Just for identification, I will print it in the console with the getter method. All these I will make. See, real captcha also the binary format only, so it will be a big string, not the image. But if you print it on the front end, it will be again decoded into image. That work we already done. How we done? You are having doubt, huh? See, list user. In this list user, sorry, register user. In this register user, here we are decoding it. Okay, JPEG format base 64. We are decoding the command.real captcha. Command is the object of user and real captcha is the field. The binary string we are decoding and printing it in the image. Okay. Now we will come back to our controller. Now you have to pass the actual object called user here. Instead of passing new user, you are passing user with the 3 fields and 2 fields plus 2 fields are empty. Name and email are empty. And captcha also set to null value. That means empty string. Then remaining two hidden captcha and real captcha is been set to its own value. Now this user will be passed to register.jsp page. Okay. From register.jsp page, when you click on the register user button, it will come to /save with the post data, the field data. You have to receive that. Where you will receive? Once again, you will be receiving that in the controller only. Okay. Request mapping. This time we have to say /save. Okay. And then you have to say post na. By default, the browser URL is a get method. Actually, that is a RESTful service. RESTful service means the same URL for this /save. There can be different methods. The URL is same, but there will be get method, post method, delete method, patch method, put method, update method, like that. So which method you are going? By default is a get method, but you are going for the post method. You have to mention that. When you want to mention that, you have to state the value equal to here, comma, method equal to request. Actually, we are not getting the suggestions. So better to go with different annotation. We will go with post mapping. And directly we will say /save. Similarly, all the annotation is there. Delete mapping, put mapping is there. If you say request mapping, you should say another one attribute called method. You should say like post or get or delete, like that. By default, it is get. Okay. Even get mapping is also there. If you say get mapping will be there. And if you say delete mapping will be there. Directly also you can say. Now I am going direct method post mapping /save. I should go with some function name. Return type is string. Function name is fun2. Now remember, my form is actually posting some data which I need to receive it here. That means this time I have to use @model attribute is the annotation. @model attribute and then the user class name and the object for that. So whatever you are passing, your form is passing, you will be receiving that in the user object. Now, before saving that, you have to check it. What you have to check it? If the actual captcha is hidden captcha, the user entered one is captcha. You have to check it. User dot hidden captcha is a string, na? So how will you check equal to? You should not put like this double equal to, triple equal to, and all. It is string. So dot equals user dot captcha. If both are equal, then we have to register the user. How will you register? We are having the API call inside which class? We are having the API call inside DAO service class. DAO service class. You have to create the object for that. How will you create the object? DAO service space DAO is the object. I already said you should not write the right side one. You should write auto wired only. If you write the right side one, it won't work because it is extending from JPA and the flow is continuing here. The JPA is actually having definition in the packages. Now we have to say DAO dot save. We know there are two functions which we have written. One is save. So what we have to pass means the user object we have to pass. This will be saved. Okay. Then while saving also, it won't save 5 fields because 3 fields are transient. It will save only 2 fields, name and email. Then after saving, where you will return? You have to land in one page now after saving. After saving, you have to show the users, all users. That means the page name is listuser.jsp. You have to return to that. That means return redirect :/ list user. That's it. List user. .jsp not required because you already made prefix and suffix. We will see how it will redirect. List user or something else different also you can say. For example, I will say show. Later I will show how it is. Okay. I will say redirect to show. I will create the show later. And while you are redirecting, once again you want that means you want to show one message. That means else part you will show one message like failed. Success part no need. If required, we can show the message. Anything else required for the show page? That we will decide now. We will first create that function also parallelly. Here I will write post request mapping itself. That means get mapping itself. By default, it is get only. Request mapping / show. That show which I said redirect is this / show. Then next line I will create the function to trigger. This is also having string return type 13. I have to call the page called list user. The prefix and suffix is already there. Okay. For this page, what is required is you want to send the entire user list. Okay. That means m dot add attribute. M you have to create actually. Model M. You have to create that in the parameter. Then m dot add attribute. As usual, the name you will give it as command, comma, what you will pass. You will pass the list of users. For example, list of users is L. So where is the answer for L? You will create that list of user object. I will import it from util package. List of user object. Its name is L equal to, I want the answer. That means list of users. So how to get it means DAO dot, we already having one show function in DAO. I will use that function. It will get the list and it will supply it to L, and that L will be passed to the corresponding page in the name of command, and the page is list user. Now this is fine. Redirect show means it will do all these things. Okay. Else, if the condition fails, you come back to your registration page. That means before saying return register, once again you have to say all this, you have to create all this user and captcha. User object need to be created and captcha need to be created. Up to real captcha it need to be set. I will just paste all these things once again for the registration page, but this time I don't want the system.out.println because that is only for checking purpose. One time I will check, that is enough. The 3 captchas are set. It is created. Why it is showing error means you are already having the local variable called user. So you just rename it as user1, and everywhere it should be user1 then. So I renamed. Then I have to add the attribute also for the registration page, user attribute. And also I can pass one message. See, while adding the attribute m.add attribute, it is showing me error because I am not having the object m. So comma model m I can create in the top, in the parameter, as a second parameter. Now I can also pass the message like m.add attribute. The attribute name is message instead of command. See, by default, the first default attribute name is command only. Second one, third one, you decide. Message is the name and the message is invalid captcha. Okay, so 2 attributes I'm passing. One is to display the form, another one is the message invalid captcha for the previous attempt. I think post mapping is done and show is also okay. This message I have to display in the register page. So after the form, I will just put dollar message. This will display the message actually. We'll go back to controller. I think I had done with the things. Let me check it. We had done a lot. So, and also application.properties. Here we have to go with the database connection. In my PPT, I had given you. Just use that. Once again, typing will take me time. Just database properties, use it. See, I have not given you the JSP based one. I had only given you the database one. Use it. Here, the database name is JFSD underscore class. And we had already imported the pond.xml for MySQL. From that, we are going for this driver. Username and password I had given, and DDL auto, all these things I had explained you already. Update means it will append the values. If you say create, DDL auto create means it will create new table every time. And this equal to true says whatever the operation JPA repository does, it will show it in the console here in the down. Okay, here it will show. Okay, you don't want to write system.out.println every time. Now let me check it, save it, and then update the project once. Maven update project. Who's update? Now we will just try to run it. If we see what is the error we are getting. It is saying port 8080 was already in use. So you have to stop the server. Again, we will run. I think my old file is running on the port. Go for running again. I think it is running. Now we have to check it in the browser only. We will open the browser. Localhost colon 8080 slash. It is showing you the registration page. Alignment, you just leave it because we have to do CSS for that. Some number I am giving because that is unique value, and email, I'm giving my mail, and Captcha image is coming. I will give wrong Captcha now. Okay, then register user. Let me check what is happening. It is showing invalid Captcha. Okay, but the next time when it is showing, actually it is not showing the Captcha to you. You have to correct it. Anyway, we will continue. Now we will give the right Captcha. EN5. Now I will give register user. Let me check what is happening. Actually, we are getting error. Property name not found on type java.lang.string. So this is the error we are getting. We have to check it. We will check it now. And also note that we are getting into slash show, not slash save. That means slash save is done. It is redirected to show. And in show, you are getting error. So we have to check the show only. I hope so in database it is inserted because slash save is done. Let me check with MySQL database. I think the table name is user2 something. Use JFSD database, then show tables I will give. I will confirm the table name. Yes, user2. Select star from user2. I think Balaji 10 I had given. See, it is inserted into database actually. It checked the data and it inserted. Only thing is after insertion, while showing the list of data to you, it is showing you the error property name not found on type. Let me check that. We'll go to our IDE. In fact, while doing good and big programs, definitely we will get some errors. It is good only. We'll check. In the show, we are getting error. We are saying DAO.show. Okay. Let me check the show method there in the DAO. DAO service is having show method. Here you are saying repo.findAll. Okay. You are returning list of users. That is also fine. Here things are fine. And list of users will come here. And that will be assigned to L. Okay. And that L is passed to command. It is also good. L is passed to command. Then list of users is there. Now we will go to that JSP page actually. List user. Here the command. Check the spelling COMMAND and in your controller it is getting correct only. COMMAND and I'm passing that as L. That means L is the actual value. I'm receiving this as command and user is the variable and I'm accessing user.name, user.email. Let me check. Actually, the issue is we have to use dollar symbol here. Items equal to dollar command like this within the bracket because this is the one we are receiving, right? So we have to use dollar symbol like how we used for dollar user.name like that. So save it. We will check once again. Now we got. Only thing is border we required. Just go to table and say border equal to something 2 within double quotes. Now refresh it. Yes. Let me insert one more value. I will give 11 this time. Email, same mail is also okay. Captcha, I will give right captcha, XHGG. So all the two datas are displaying exactly. And this one is completed here. And I know if you require some support for this, since it's a big program, you have to parallelly follow with me. And if you require some support for this, you can go to my github.com/balaji-rm. Just go into there. You can find the repository called JFST class program. Here you can find JFST Captcha. Okay. This is the folder with all the source code it is there. And you don't want to download the entire repository by going at code and download zip. Actually, that is not required because it is having too many programs. Just come down and you can find the JFST captcha.zip. Go to the zip and download. You can only get the uh, exact project file. Just you can start work with that. Okay. Only thing is you have to configure the database and things. But I don't recommend that way. Like downloading everything and configuring only the database. You can't learn and you can't be the programmer as well. If you want to be the programmer, try to see and type it. Okay. And thank you.